Gordon Ryan is back atop the pound-for-pound ranking after an utterly dominant display at Who's Number One last week, the heavyweight title bout against Pedro Marinho, and it was pretty shocking to see. We're going to break down Gordon Ryan's epic performance from last week's Who's Next finale. We're also going to talk about his upcoming super fight with Felipe Pena on August 7th. We're going to talk about the Who's Next finale marathon match from last week with Isaac Michel and Kyle Chambers. We're going to talk about the IBJJF GP. We're going to talk about ADCC and much more. Myself, Howell Teague, joined by Corey Stockton. Corey, tell me, how do you feel after being in the room for the longest match in Who's Number One history?
I definitely lived a piece of history. Don't know if I want to live that exactly again, but really an epic match, right? An epic moment in the history of jiu-jitsu and the history of who's number one, who's next. That match had this really cool ending to it, right? It got scooted into the back room. I think a perfect way to wrap this thing up, right? Put everything in the back room right where it started and kind of film it Fight Club style.
Yeah, Fight Club style. I like that. It was an epic moment. It'll definitely go down in history. Really was a landmark moment in modern jiu-jitsu, and we'll get into the details of that a little bit later. Of course, today's episode of the Grappling Bulletin podcast. You can join us in the YouTube live chat. Send us your questions, your comments as we're going through today's topics. You can see just on the side of the screen right here. Going to talk about Gordon, Who's Next finale, the show we've got coming up August 7th, the GP, ADCC, and much more. So yeah, join us in the YouTube chat. Just comments, questions, whatever have you as we go through the show, and we'll do our best to respond. So let's get into it. Gordon's dominance. Gordon's dominance was just something else. At the Who's Next, the Tezos Who's Number One, Who's Next finale presented by Fataya Beer. Incredible mouthful. But yeah, despite competing just once all year, despite battling his ongoing health problems that he says put him right now at around about 60% of his athletic potential, and despite the fact that he faced off with the Who's Number One light heavyweight champion Pedro Marinho, Gordon Ryan had one of his most dominant performances yet and made Pedro Marinho, no offense, look like a white belt. And now we're looking at some of Gordon's most dominant moments from his Who's Number One career. Undefeated, Corey, and a perfect record. And there is a definite theme going on in all these matches, right?
Yeah, it's his seemingly unbearable pressure, right? Gordon showing off his passing skills, but really against Pedro, the thing that we saw most was his ability to not just utilize the mount to put pressure and to exhaust and to at points even suffocate Pedro, but to turn Pedro over to the back control and mount and back to back control and back to mount, seemingly at will.
Yeah, his top pressure from the mount must be something truly incredible because he has tapped people with literally just pressure, but he often uses the mount to open up submissions of his choice. And the match with Pedro stands out because he actually spent more time in mount than any of his other matches. And he was cooking Pedro. He was using the mount to try and attack for a smother choke, a smother submission. He wasn't quite able to get it. 25 minutes or so into the match, he says that he actually started getting heckled by somebody from in the crowd, so he decided to finish. You'll hear Gordon comment on that in a minute. But just looking at the pure stats, Gordon's dominance in those matches, those 6 Who's Number One matches against Kyle Bain, Mateus Diniz, Roberto Jimenez, Wagner Hoscher, Jacob Couch, and Pedro Marinho. That list includes ADCC champions, Who's Number One champions, IBJJF World No-Gi champions, ADCC medalists, ADCC trials winners. This is a list of truly impressive grapplers, and Gordon has dispatched each and every single one of them with ease.
And it seems like I think the whole jiu-jitsu community came together and said that this is Gordon's most competitive match, maybe since the beginning of Who's Number One, right? All the way back to Kyle Bain in 2020. Add that to the fact that they were the closest in size Gordon has ever been to one of his opponents on Who's Number One,
right?
Leading up to now. And Gordon looked equally as dominant. He looked like he was never under threat in 25 minutes of grappling. He took to the feet with Pedro Moreno, which is something we rarely see from him, and
showcased his wrestling
and took him down, took Pedro down, and then from the mount just made me as a grappler reconsider everything I know about control, about positional dominance.
That's an interesting observation, something that myself, Chase, and Kendall talked about a lot during the actual broadcast, during the live play-by-play commentary, is that the fact that Gordon, he has reintroduced the mount as a dominant position in no-gi jiu-jitsu because it fell out of fashion, fell out of favor for a long time. People weren't really utilizing the mount. I think Gordon was maybe responsible for that because he showed one of the most effective mount escapes. He showed it in the I think it was the Onnit Invitational a few years ago where he was playing what they call the possum guard. He basically just let his opponents pass the mount and then immediately would do that sort of the hydraulic kind of escape, hands in the hips, and then go into a heel hook and submit people. So people were like, oh man, mount sucks in jiu-jitsu, we're not going to do mount anymore. Gordon's like, well, actually, I'm going to show you that the mount is an extremely powerful position. And he used it in every single one of those matches almost. I think of 5 of those 6, actually. He utilized the mounts with incredible success. And you mentioned about the weight difference. So if you go to the website, if you go to look at today's Grappling Bulletin article, you'll see that I actually put a little table in there with Gordon's weights with regards to each of his opponents. And yeah, there have been matches where he's been as much as 25 pounds bigger than his opponents. But yes, the match with Pedro was closer in weight than any of his previous opponents. He was only, on the official scale, 8 pounds heavier. On the day of the match, because Gordon actually competes fasted. Gordon doesn't eat for 24 hours before competing because of his stomach problems. He was down to 218 that day. So he was only about 3 pounds heavier than Pedro had weighed in at the day before. So Gordon looked so heavy on top. And what I'm wondering is, how do you think Gordon is able to generate so much pressure and to just utterly control his opponents from those positions?
I mean, maybe this is oversimplification, but it's all in the technique, right? Size clearly has nothing to do with it. Strength, I'd imagine, has very little to do with it. It's all about where he puts himself under his opponent's elbows, or there's little technical nuances and little details that he's adjusting that clearly make a world of difference.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to learn from watching Gordon's performance. There's a lot to study about the way that he separates the elbows away from the upper body, the way that he was sort of bringing the elbows up close to the head and sort of like start to set up arm triangle chokes and the such, but using that smother. I feel bad because there's going to be a lot of white belts and blue belts in the gym getting crushed by grapplers wishing to try out Gordon Ryan's new smothering techniques. I'm sure. So pour one out for the white belts. But we saw a similar technique being utilized by Nicholas Marigali, his training partner, in the match with Bray LeGrout.
Right, and Marigali, I think his entire style looked reminiscent of the same game that Gordon is playing, right? A lot of, maybe the passing looks a little bit different, but the takedowns are similar, the passing is similar, and when he gets to mount, the end goal is similar, at least to some of Gordon's earlier performances last year, is the armbar. It's
the system, right? Exactly. It's got to be the system, because you know that John Danaher and his New Wave team, and Gordon in particular, they're big proponents of various attack systems, and that was Gordon. It was a masterclass in the mount system. Nicholas Marigali was certainly real-time workshopping some of those techniques as well. Utilized it to get the arm triangle choke in his match as well. So yeah, a lot to unpack from that match from Gordon, and most importantly, of course, but what that means for the match with Felipe Pena. Because, well, there's a great comment here in our YouTube chat actually that it's where are we? There we go. Mikey Pabua says that Gordon was trying to send a message to Felipe via the Pedro match, because Pedro used to train under Felipe. They're Gracie Barra teammates. Pedro was sort of brought up by Felipe and made a professional athlete. He gave him his first big break. So you know that Felipe was paying attention to this match for multiple reasons. Of course, he wants to study Gordon before their match on August 7th. And of course, he wants to see his teammate and see how he fares against Gordon. And You think that Gordon was trying to send a message?
I mean, Gordon said just that, right? He was especially there to send a message to Felipe. I think that's why he spent so long trying to smother Pedro. I think he could have finished that match a lot earlier if he had wanted to, but I think he wanted to use Pedro as kind of the catalyst for his message to Felipe. That A, he can smother one of Felipe's toughest training partners, and B, I think there was a little bit of a psychological I just tortured your friend element in there as well.
All right, we're going to play a clip now. This is Gordon, an excerpt from Gordon's post-match interview after his title belt winning performance. He's now officially the Who's Number One heavyweight champion. Let's play the clip and hear what he has to say.
I feel good. I'm just happy to be back, to be honest. It's been a long road. I'm still not 100%. I'm still only 60 to 70% with my stomach. But I'm able to at least function as a human being now from day to day. And I'm just happy I can go out there and, manage my stomach enough to compete against the best guys. So that's the main thing. I'm just happy to be back. I put an impossibly hard submission for my call today. It's a smother tap. It was a fake move. It's basically just to create a dilemma between using a smother and then going to double underhooks, which he figured out posting the armpit was going to make it hard for me to go into the smother, and then I just refused to go to double underhook, so he kind of figured it out and kind of messed me up. But then someone in the crowd was yelling at me, like, you only got 5 minutes left, like, what's on the card, win by decision? And then I said to him right there, I was like, okay, I'll finish something else. And then within 20 seconds, I was on his back and I finished it. Overall, I'm just happy to be back. Happy that I can finally compete against someone who was my own size, who is not 40 years old, which being older is an advantage, no one understands that. But someone who's relatively my age, my size, my weight at least. The 205 champion for Who's Number One and their double gold reigning IBJJF world champion. So there's just no excuses that anyone can make this time because he's an active champion who is my size and my age. So I think it's fair to say that I just made him look like a white belt. Yeah, I'm happy with it. Bummed out that I didn't get to smother him, but it is what it is.
All right, so we've got some really good comments and questions here in the YouTube live chat. I'm going to respond to a couple of them now. Caleb Martin says that we're going to need 2 versus 1 for it to be competitive when it comes to Gordon, because like we've said, he's been that dominant against every single one of his opponents on Who's Number One so far. It's like, geez, what do? You get tag team? No, or 2 guys at the same time? Krona says that the match was crazy. It really shows that there are levels, even more so at black belt. And I think that's fair comment, because Pedro, that match is not a good representation of his jiu-jitsu, because Pedro has gone head-to-head with Victor Hugo, Wagner Hosha, Roberto Cyborg, some of the very best in the world, and Gordon toyed with him.
Yeah, exactly that. This match. Pedro did not look like Pedro in this match, right? Pedro looked like, you could fill in the blank,
right?
And that's just how good Gordon is, which kind of brings to my mind the Felipe Pena match, right? Because Felipe is naturally a guard puller, right? Felipe very rarely fights for top position. He wants to get to the back via the guard.
Especially in a no time limit sub-only match,
right,
which is what it's going to be on August 7th.
So if you put Gordon in a situation where he doesn't even have to fight for the top position, Gordon, knowing how good his passing is, knowing how good his pressure is, we're going to have to see an exceptional guard from Felipe Pena.
Right. We got here Cronus again saying that Pedro really hung in there, and I agree. That Pedro was under all kinds of pressure. I mean, there was moments underneath the mount where he was like almost drowning under the pressure. Like Gordon was basically waterboarding him with a sweaty rash guard and just driving his chest into his face. So much so that Pedro took his mouthpiece out and spat it out and threw it away. So much so that there were moments when he was completely covered, his face was covered, and he would get a tiny bit of space and he would kind of come up for air. He'd go, and then have to go back under and get smothered. He was literally drowning under the pressure. And, we've got some comments here. Ryan Barnes says that Gordon made Pedro look like him when he's rolling with his coach. DGPN says Pedro looked like a hobbyist black belt. And these are all fair comments and not disrespectful to Pedro, more an accurate assessment of how that match really went. Some good technical kind of comments here about the about the way that he was maintaining the position as well. Rich Finaldi says that he keeps the pressure on and kept Pedro's elbows and arms either up at his head. And I think that's a really interesting point as well, that Gordon's got this great ability to separate the elbows from the torso and to compromise that posture from bottom. Because a lot of the time, well, as we saw in Kyle Chambers, those elbows in, it's very difficult to submit somebody when they're just shelled up like that. But Gordon's got some voodoo that he's able to get people's arms all the way up here, right?
Yeah, I think even going back to when the DDS was really focusing on leg locks, right? Isolation was key. And that's something that I think they spend a lot of time focusing on as a team at New Wave is making sure to isolate limbs away from the body. And that's something they're clearly exceptionally good at.
Yeah, the mechanics are just incredible. They really are. Like I say, so much to study and to unpack from that match. Well, as we said, Gordon is once again atop the pound-for-pound rankings, and of course, he only really slipped from that more due to inactivity than anything else, his actual record. So we'll see him in action again soon, and I'm sure that Felipe Pena will have been watching that match very closely. But I imagine that Pena is unfazed by the previous Who's Number One matches. I think he's probably unfazed by the numbers, the stats that we've seen, the time that Gordon has spent in dominant positions, the endless submissions that he's been scoring in his matches, because Felipe has the utter belief that he can't beat Gordon at his own game.
Yeah, and he's got the two numbers that matter most, right? The record number of submission wins and the record number of wins over Gordon Ryan. He's the only person to have submitted Gordon Ryan ever, and the only person to have beaten Gordon twice.
Yeah. The last time that Gordon was actually submitted prior to the match against Felipe Pena was in 2014. I think he was still a purple belt at the time. Yeah, he was. He was still a purple belt. And I couldn't even find that information. I had to text Gordon and ask him. And I was like, man, when was the last time you got submitted? And he's like, he got submitted twice in 2014. That's how frequently Gordon loses by submission. Incredible, really is. But yeah, we'll see that very soon, August 7th, no time limit match in the main event. It will be the last match of the evening as well. We won't have any issues like we did in the Who's Next finale last week. But very excited for that. Very excited to see what the game plan is for both men, for Felipe and Gordon. And we're going to settle that score once and for all, right?
Seems that way.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the Who's Next finale. So the next subject that we're going to talk about is, of course, the no time limit match. The no time limit match, the epic Who's Next finale marathon match. It was between Isaac Michel and Kyle Chambers. It was the culmination of the ongoing Who's Next Submission Fighter Challenge reality TV show that, of course, you can watch on FloGrappling. And now we saw throughout the filming of that season that these no time limit submission only matches, they can go from 30 seconds or they can go up to 3 hours. And we weren't quite sure what to expect leading into this match, but what we got was a real test of endurance and jiu-jitsu skill in a match that lasted 2 hours, 11 minutes and 58 seconds before Isaac Michel was able to score the grand prize winning armbar submission, right?
Right, and that doesn't tell the whole story of the event leading up to the match, right? Because Isaac was just a couple days back in the States after a flight from Australia where he had just chaos getting out of the country. So real credit to Isaac for pushing through to make it out here and then enduring 2.25 hours of mat time to achieve the very first ever Who's Next championship, Who's Next title.
Going to go down in history.
Yeah, the very first, right?
Pretty nice cash prize as well. He got $10,000 cash, also got 10,000 TES, which is around about $14,000, and a 3-match contract on Who's Number One. Let's take a quick look at the submission, the match-ending submission from this epic encounter. Now, this took place backstage because, as Corey mentioned, we went a full 99 minutes at the on the main mat on the live broadcast, and what happened was there was no end in sight. So the Gordon Ryan Pedro Mourinho match was still to come. So we basically took the match, we put it on the warm-up mats, we had the cameras and the lights there, and the match continued. Kept going for quite a while longer. And this is the kind of the finishing sequence so you can see that Isaac Michel in the all black was able to get against the 10th planet black belt Kyle Chambers. Why don't you talk us through this, Corey?
Isaac is once again in the mount, right? He had passed Kyle's guard several times and made his way to Kyle's back quite often too. But the rear naked choke was not working. Kyle had an ironclad defense.
Unusual defense. The Home Alone defense, we've been calling it, right? They're putting the hands against the face. And usually you'd see people get tapped even with their hands inside the rear naked choke. But Isaac said he was super strong.
Right. And so with the back control not seeming to lead to a submission. We missed a submission there.
Let's keep the tape rolling. We missed the finish.
Yep. Kyle left his arm hanging, and Isaac finally switched to the arm bar and ended up picking up there.
Yeah. So let's just mention a few things about this match. Like you say, he arrived only 48 hours prior to the match. He was jet lagged coming from Australia, and they say it takes about a day to kind of acclimatize for every hour of time difference. So there was something going on with our video as well. It's paused, unfortunately, but there was something going on with Isaac into this match, because he was basically fighting the effects of extreme jet lag, and yet he went out there for 2 hours and just poured on the pressure, just did not give up. And it's kind of amazing, actually. He was able to keep up such a high pace throughout that whole match. Because, Kyle's strategy became very obvious very quickly. His strategy was to wait for Isaac to get tired, to make a mistake, to leave an opening, and to counterattack, which he did a couple of times, and he came pretty close. Yeah,
and I think that it's a great strategy if you look at the rule set in which they were battling, right? It's no time limit submission only. There's the only incentive to make a mistake is you get tired, you get bored, you get exhausted, right? So if you're,
or you lose mental focus. That's usually what it is in these long matches.
Right. So if you are getting positionally dominated, the best course of action when there's that much money on the line is to wait for the top guy to take a risk. And that's very often where Kyle found his opportunities, right? Isaac, after winning in the positional game, would take a shot at a submission, and Kyle would counterattack.
Yeah, that triangle armbar that he went after was so impressive. And it was definitely Kyle's best attack throughout the whole thing. And I asked Isaac about it afterwards, and he said, oh yeah, it was on. It was on there for a second. But, that was the one kind of real moment that Kyle had in comparison to Isaac's just endless time spent in dominant positions. And let's actually hear from Isaac briefly, because we have an interview clip with him immediately after the match, and he kind of breaks down a little bit about the match.
A lot of my training was wrestling, points, not so focused on submission attacks, but next time I do a no time limit match, I guess I'll definitely focus on submission attacks more so.
How happy are you right now, man?
Yeah, man, I'm stoked, hey.
It's over?
Yeah, that was a long match, hey.
Did anything surprise you about Kyle?
His strength. I think his strength surprised me the most. His grips were very strong. His ability to fight from the back was very strong. I guess I would like for him to have opened up his offensive game more. He played a pretty defensive game, so I guess that's why also the submission took a lot longer than I expected to. Yeah, it probably is the craziest match I've ever had. I guess I did the ADCC Trials Finals as well. That was also a big moment for me. But yeah, this probably tops it, just because it was such a interesting match, I guess. It went a lot longer than I expected. I started cramping up when I was walking over here. I had huge cramps in my legs, so during that last section of the match I was more so stretching out my legs than I was trying to gain position. So I guess that also played a factor. I didn't want to stop due to a cramp, but I also felt my knees were also quite sore. I've got 2 meniscus tears in both knees, so I was feeling that a little bit. That played a little bit of a factor, but I put that aside and just told myself to just keep hunting the submission, and I eventually got there in the end.
So there's certainly no doubt about Isaac's performance in this match. And I think that while many people would maybe like to forget the match, they're never going to forget Isaac's performance. Isaac came out of this match a hero. Of course, the filming of the show, the matches that he had against world-class black belts, beating Adam Bradley, beating Jansen Gomez, beating Kyle Chambers. Extremely impressive display of jiu-jitsu. I think Isaac's personality and his jiu-jitsu have won him a lot of fans. A lot of fans. This is a really special moment in this kid's career. And this could be a turning point. We could really see a star being born here.
Yeah, which is great because we're going to see a lot more of him, right? He earned himself that 3-match Who's Number One contract. He will be on Who's Number One again in the future. And I think that it's exactly that. Is the perfect opportunity for Isaac to take the opportunity he's had and grow himself out of it.
I hope that he keeps this momentum going because, of course, don't forget that Isaac is also qualified for ADCC in September. Now, this is a huge opportunity for this guy that after having won the ADCC trials in Australia, after having won the Who's Next Season 1, after punching his ticket to go to ADCC, man, you have to think that, that's got to give him so much confidence to go in. And I think that people better be getting themselves ready for Isaac. I think that people better be very careful of Isaac Michel because he displayed great wrestling, displayed really good top game, and he displayed the ability to just go and go and go in the face of adversity. And yeah, maybe he himself admits that he needs to tighten up some of his finishing mechanics, but he's got plenty of time to work on that between now and ADCC. Incredibly impressive performance.
One thing I want to add before we move on, just a cool jiu-jitsu moment that we caught from the sides is that there was some real insight into jiu-jitsu innovation, right? During that match, because it was 2 hours long, because there were so many people invested, there were moments where Ethan Krellinston and Damian Anderson kind of snuck off on the sideline. One took the other's back, and they were, one was here, and they were kind of troubleshooting. No, that doesn't work. No, that doesn't work either. Okay, this would work. Isaac, try this. And then back to the well, right? When it didn't work. So cool,
real-time problem solving.
Cool to see it, right? Cool to see it happen.
Yeah, that is cool. So before we get into, there's plenty of conversation in the live chat about this, but I think we should talk about Kyle Chambers as well, because Kyle made some comments in his post-match interview that drew a lot of attention. And the best thing to do is let Kyle speak, hear it in his own words, and then we can dissect what he said.
Kyle, thanks so much for doing this, man. I know the fight, of course, didn't go your way. Just give me your thoughts on the experience here tonight.
Yeah, man. Good night. I could make a million excuses. Saying that I wasn't 100% coming into camp, but the truth is, we're never 100% coming into any fight. That's kind of what we do when we train hard. We have little things, and I had plenty of opportunities to capitalize. Doesn't matter how my body felt, and I should have capitalized and had good opportunities. He was playing really good anti-jiu-jitsu, what we call it, like not really trying to engage until he can fully pass my guard, which was really well. We had a crazy battle, it was like 2 hours or something. I wanted to go the hell and back, I wanted it so bad, but sometimes it doesn't go your way. So it's one of those days, so I'm just gonna go back to the drawing board and get back, but please believe I'm gonna be back stronger than ever.
So Kyle had some comments about what he called anti-jiu-jitsu. And he basically accused Isaac of playing anti-jiu-jitsu. And the immediate response from everybody was, what? What was Isaac not doing in that match? The anti-jiu-jitsu is usually defined as not engaging, stalling, or playing jiu-jitsu in a way that isn't offensive and shuts down any opportunity for counter-offense. It's a very conservative kind of style of play, let's call it, and often very boring and really nothing much happens. So to hear Kyle claim that Isaac was playing anti-jiu-jitsu really riled a lot of people up because they're like, dude, Isaac outworked, outpositioned, and was attacking for submissions non-stop during that match. What do you make of Kyle's comment?
Yeah, it took me a while to try and figure out exactly what Isaac did, how Isaac Jiu-Jitsu could have possibly been anti-Jiu-Jitsu, because he was attacking, right? He was passing, he was taking the back. He was playing conservative when he had dominant positions, but that's because there was really no imperative for him to take any risks, right?
But a dominant position You don't open yourself up for risk.
Right.
You're in control. You wouldn't open yourself up for risk in those kind of positions, right?
So I'll give that he was being conservative, maybe a little bit risk averse, but in those positions you should be conservative, risk averse. Wait for your opportunity because you are in. There's no progressing from back control.
Right.
There's
no
else to go.
anti-jiu-jitsu. When you're in mount or you've got back control or something, that's not anti-jiu-jitsu. That is just doing jiu-jitsu because those are the control positions. Well, Kyle responded on his social media, and I'm going to read out the quote here. He said, "People getting so butthurt over the anti-jiu-jitsu comments. When talking about anti-jiu-jitsu, it's not saying that you're not doing jiu-jitsu at all. It's describing the style of passing you're using. So many people have things to say, but they don't even understand the meaning of the term or the context it was used. People just want to be followers and jump on bandwagons." So it seems that maybe this is a question about language here. Maybe it's a question about description, because Gio Martinez, Kyle's coach, also backed him up and said that people are tripping when they don't get what we mean when we say anti-jiu-jitsu. It's a style people play to make it difficult to get your game going by not allowing you to establish any grips or hooks. He wouldn't look at it as a diss. If anything, it's more of a compliment in Gio's opinion. So it's maybe a little bit of a semantics argument here as to exactly what anti-jiu-jitsu means. But I think that we need to maybe define anti-jiu-jitsu for everybody else here, because anti-jiu-jitsu is not what Isaac Michel was doing. And Gio and Kyle, I love you guys. I think you're fantastic black belts. I think you're fantastic competitors. But you cannot call what happened in that match anti-jiu-jitsu. Anti-jiu-jitsu is the opposite of what Kyle was doing. What Isaac was doing. Isaac was on the attack. Isaac was passing the guard. He was in control positions, defensive when necessary, conservative when necessary, but in dominant position is not anti-jiu-jitsu. Anti-jiu-jitsu is not engaging. Anti-jiu-jitsu is stalling. It's running away. It's shutting down your opponent in such a way that you're not playing jiu-jitsu and neither are they. It is the antithesis of doing jiu-jitsu. So I think we need to rewrite the script about what anti-jiu-jitsu really means, because I don't want you guys losing fans over this. It's an important one, because we're looking at the comments here. And we got some comments here about Kevin Holmes says that Chambers saying Isaac Jiu-Jitsu was using anti-BJJ was pretty laughable for somebody who kept his hands on his face for 2 hours. And there's a lot of conversation in here as well. The general consensus is that match was not a good showcase for anti-Jiu-Jitsu.
No, and I think given the definition that Kyle and Gio have been using, I think it makes sense that Isaac was using conservative jiu-jitsu, right? He was using defensive or denial jiu-jitsu. He wasn't allowing Kyle to get his game going.
Right.
But it was not for Isaac's lack of attacking
No.
that Kyle couldn't get his game going. It was that Isaac was. It's like saying that Gordon was doing anti-jiu-jitsu to Pedro, right?
Yeah,
because
good
it's
point.
the same thing.
Good point.
Gordon was not allowing Pedro to get started, but Gordon was attacking the whole time, and he was working.
Yeah, there are some far more egregious examples of what anti-jiu-jitsu really looks like. That match was not one of them. Well, I think that's enough said about that. Once again, congratulations to Isaac Michel for winning Who's Next Submission Fighter Challenge, becoming the Who's Next champion, earning a 3-match contract on Who's Number One. Hopefully we see him back in action very soon. We will see him at ADCC, and I really hope that this is a breakout moment for this young star from Australia. Bright future ahead. Let's move on and talk about the upcoming Who's Number One on August 7th, because we've got a couple more topics to get through for today. And this one, of course, is the biggest match in Who's Number One history. Up until last week, the biggest match in Who's Number One in history was Gordon Ryan versus Pedro Mourinho, because that was champion versus the number one pound-for-pound guy in the world by everybody's estimation. Light heavyweight champ going for the heavyweight title and Gordon winning the heavyweight belt. That was a big match.
Absolutely was.
Yeah, huge match. But is there any super fight? Well, maybe one. Are there many super fights more anticipated than the match between Gordon Ryan and Felipe Pena? Only that of Andre Galvao and Gordon Ryan. These are the two most anticipated super fights in all of grappling. And we have booked one of them for August 7th in Dallas, Texas on Who's Number One. Gordon Ryan takes on Felipe Pena in what is possibly the ultimate grudge match.
Yeah, for all the reasons we explained earlier, right? Felipe has the only submission victory against Gordon since Gordon has earned his black belt. He's the only person to have 2 victories over Gordon Ryan, and they have been non-stop talking shit for 7 years.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So just let's go back in history a little bit. 2016, Gordon Ryan, the upstart. This is prior to winning ADCC. This is, still Gordon was in his rookie year, and he'd had some success, and he wanted to really establish himself among the world-class black belts, and he did that by issuing all manner of challenges. And one of the few people to accept was Felipe Pena. Felipe Pena, of course, who at that time was silver medalist at ADCC 2015, a world champion in the gi IBJJF. Felipe Pena was one of the best black belts in the world. And he agreed to a no time limit match, or maybe it was an hour time limit, I forget actually. But he agreed to a match, submission only match with Gordon Ryan, and won by submission. This is a very long time ago now, 2016. They met again in the final of the Absolute Division at 2017 ADCC. Felipe Pena won again, this time not by submission, this time by a back take. An iconic back take, this rolling back take to the leg defense, which since then has become known as the pretzel bolo, has become popularized by some incredible athletes, such as you've seen guys like Kainan Duarte, the Ruotolo brothers, and many others doing it. It's really amazing technique. And Felipe wrote the book on how to escape from leg locks and go straight to the back. Well, winning that and getting 2 wins over Gordon Ryan, Felipe Pena has basically enjoyed that unique position for the last 5 years. And Gordon has asked and campaigned and called for that match time and time and time again. And I'm still unclear as to why it's finally happening. What changed in Felipe Pena's attitude that he suddenly has agreed to Gordon's terms, agreed to a no time limit submission only match, agreed to do it here in the United States on Who's Number One, agreed to the side wagers of tens of thousands of dollars that they have going at the same time. I don't know where it's come from, but I love it.
Yeah, and this is really just rolling right into ADCC, right? Because of course, this match, this no time limit match between Gordon Ryan and Felipe Pena, will send a message, and that message could really resonate in ADCC when they will meet again in the same division.
Well, they may meet again.
Well, they may meet again.
There's definitely the opportunity to meet again, and that's one of the reasons why I'm surprised that Felipe would take this match so soon, so close to ADCC. So we're never really going to get into the head of Felipe Pena until we really sit down with him and find out why. And I'm sure we will in a couple of weeks as we get closer to the event. But let's talk a little about Gordon versus Felipe. Because if you look at it objectively, the Gordon Ryan hasn't been quite as prolific as maybe the earlier stage of his career. The last couple of years have been hit and miss with his health problems, with the fact that it's been very difficult to find willing opponents for Gordon. It's been a challenge. He's only had a handful of legit matches. So, can you believe that Felipe Pena has had even less no-gi matches? He's only competed really a couple of times. He's had gi matches, but he's had very, very few no-gi matches in the last couple of years. Now, objectively speaking, if you were to rank Felipe Pena and Pedro Marinho next to each other, their current iterations, let's ignore the fact that, because Felipe Pena's ADCC medals were 5 years ago now. His gold medal at ADCC 2017 and his silver medal in 2015, long time ago. So I'm talking about current modern day Felipe Pena. Pedro Marinho, double gold at IBJJF World Championships. Who's number one light heavyweight champion, among other accolades. Beating Victor Hugo, Wagner Hoscher, Aaron Wodzinski, Roberto Cyborg, among others. Craig Jones. Compared to Felipe Pena, relatively inactive. Only really one significant win this year. A match against Wagner Hoscher, won in EBI rules overtime. You'd have to say that on paper, Pedro Marinho is a more dangerous opponent than Felipe Pena. But will we expect a similar match as what we saw last week?
On paper, Pedro Marinho has at least a better track record, right? He has a lot more to go off of to say what Pedro Marinho we're looking at now. The Felipe Pena we're looking at now is really tough to predict, especially in comparison to the one we saw in 2017, the one we saw in 2016, 2015. So I'd be a lot more certain about where I put Pedro Marinho than where I put Felipe Pena. It's going to be very tough to put Felipe Pena in the rankings anywhere because there's just not a whole lot of certainty in his recent history.
There's an interesting comment in our YouTube chat here. RG1921 says that even if Gordon smashes Felipe Pena, the haters, mostly Brazilians, the fans of Felipe Pena, will still say 2-1 to Felipe Pena. But if they were to face off again at ADCC in September, It could become an even score. But I think, here's the key. Gordon has so much to prove in this match with Felipe Pena. And he's already told us that he's going to go out there and he's going to treat Felipe like he treated Pedro. He's going to just make it so one-sided. He wants to send a statement. And I'm wondering if the performance of Gordon in August, that if it goes to plan, whether it will erase sort of the history, will it erase the memory of those 2 previous wins that Felipe had against Gordon? What do you think?
It depends on how dominant Gordon looks, right? If Gordon can come out and do to Felipe what he did to Pedro, you may have to make the argument that, okay, that this one win erases all those wins from when Gordon was a fresh black belt, right? From when Gordon was just starting. But of course, you know, the people in Felipe's corner may say, well, the Felipe in 2017, that was prime Felipe, right?
It was.
There's always going to be an argument, right? But it's about this match is, regardless of 2-1, 3-0, this is the ultimate grudge match. It doesn't really matter who comes out on top in the record. I think this match stands alone as the match in this rivalry.
I was just thinking to myself, I can't wait to see what version of Felipe Pena turns up for this, because he would not take this match unless he absolutely thought that he could win it by submission. That's the only way to win this match. He's going out here to prove something. He's going out here to shut Gordon up from all the years of shit talking, all the years of comments, all the years of baiting him. That Felipe Pena is going to come out hard. And I just think that the end result of this match is going to be something spectacular, and you're going to be able to watch it all on August 7th. That's not all, though, because we do have some very cool no-gi matches also on this card. And we exclusively announced the full card during the broadcast of last week's Who's Next finale. Let's take a look. On top left, Lovato Jr. versus Nicholas Marigali. Marigali's 3rd no-gi grappling match, and against, by far, the most dangerous opponent that he's faced yet.
Yeah, he's had just 2 matches to prove that his no-gi game is, let's call it, even relevant, and he's done so in exciting fashion, right? Demonstrated his wrestling game, demonstrated his top game and his positional dominance, and he's 2-0 with 2 submission wins, but he has never faced anyone with the credentials of Rafael Lovato Jr., who is an IBJJF no-gi world champion, who is an ADCC veteran, who's a Bellator champion, right? His no-gi is definitely more formidable than anybody that Marigali has faced to date in no-gi.
He is a dangerous opponent, a very, very dangerous opponent. Definitely the toughest challenge that Marigali has faced in his short no-gi career. We'll see how that goes. The top right, we have Mika Galvao returning to Who's Number One, taking on who's making his Who's Number One debut, actually, is EPI champion and 10th Planet Black Belt Alan Sanchez. I'm excited for this match. What do you make of that one?
Yeah, this is a long time coming, I think, for Alan Sanchez. He's really been digging his way in and gotten on our radar. His EBI win, very impressive. He also did really well at a couple of, I want to say, Emerald City matches earlier on last year. But
also looked great at ADCC trials as well.
Looked great at trials. Hit the quarterfinals in both of them. Alan Sanchez definitely on his way up, but he'll really need to step up against Mika Galvao, who's right now at the top of everybody's radar.
Elizabeth Clay returns to Who's Number One, taking on the 135-pound champion Beatriz Mesquita. But important to note that this is a non-title match at 145 pounds. Clay has had some epic matches on Who's Number One all the way back to 2020 when she faced off with the likes of Gabby Garcia, took 3rd place at the Who's Number One Championships. Beatriz Mesquita will be looking to come back and make another statement. She captured the title in October of 2021 and now returns. And I think that both of these women will be looking to make a statement going into ADCC. And then this is a match that I think this is definitely going to be a fan favorite. This is definitely going to be one of those matches that everybody's very excited for, because you've got one of the biggest crowd pleasers out there right now. One half of match of the night from last week's Who's Number One is Jacob J-Rod Rodriguez going up against Jacob Couch, the Hillbilly Hammer. So Hillbilly Hammer, one of the stars of the Daisy Fresh series, one of the best competitors out of the Daisy Fresh Pedigo submission fighting team, a multiple time Who's Number One and Who's Number One championship veteran. going up against just a firecracker, somebody who is just an emerging star in Jacob Rodriguez. This match has fireworks written all over it.
Yeah, and I think this is an important match for Couch, right? Going into the West Coast trials, Couch was the number 1 seed. He was, I think, everybody's favorite to win that 88 kilogram division. Well, not only did he not progress very far, but J-Rod shocked the world, 7 submission wins. Now it's, of course, a legend. But this is a good opportunity for Couch to kind of come back and prove. The day wasn't right at West Coast Trials. Given the right day, that could have been his title. And I think one way or the other, this match is going to be nonstop. We saw J-Rod last weekend have his back taken for 10 minutes before turning the tables and just sprinting at Giancarlo Bodoni for the next 5.
Yeah, absolutely. We can pull that graphic down now because this is a loaded card, and we also have a couple more matches. We have 2 of Mika Galvao's teammates, Fight Sports teammates, also making their Who's Number One debuts. We have ADCC South American Trials winners at 66 kilo. Fabricio Andre is taking on Fabian Ramirez at 145 pounds, and Diogo Hayes is taking on the giant killer Estevan Martinez in another featherweight rules match. I love these matches. I love the fact that we're getting more emerging stars from Brazil onto Who's Number One. These ADCC trials winners, Diogo Hayes, Fabricio Andre. If you think that Mika Galvao is exciting, wait till you see these guys. They're cut from the same cloth, right?
Absolutely, just the same energy, the same kill or be killed style. Really fun to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be very interesting. We're just reading some of the comments here about how I like this. Jordan Butler says that in the gi, he'd have a different answer. That Marigali struggled to finish Bray Legrout and Arnaldo, and neither of them can hang in an under 99 bracket ADCC. This will be Marigali's first real no-gi match. And I think that's a very fair statement. That the other 2 matches, while not taking anything away from his opponents, of course, Arnaldo and Bray are both tough guys, they obviously weren't that much of a test for Marigali, and this is the match where we really see what he's going to be made of, right?
Yeah, he is up against not just a no-gi world champion, because so was Arnaldo Maidana, but somebody who has spent a lot of time doing various forms of no-gi, right? IBJJF no-gi, ADCC no-gi, even mixed martial arts. So he's well-rounded as they come, and definitely one of the greats. I
like this. Victor Doria, our friend Victor from Fight Sports Miami, is saying he's predicting the Baby Shark, Diogo Hayes, versus the Giant Slayer, Estevan Martinez. He's saying it right now. He's saying it's going to be fight of the night.
Couldn't disagree.
Yeah, I gotta say it definitely has it written all over it. Anybody who's seen Estevan in action, just wow. I mean, that guy does not stop, and I think Diogo's going to meet that energy in the middle of the mat. It's going to be really, really cool. Yeah, I think this is a great match. Oh, we actually got a good comment here as well that Justin Hill says that he thinks that Elizabeth Clay might be unorthodox enough to give Beer a hard time. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I was thinking about this kind of last night writing the release article, but Liz Clay's style has really changed over the last couple of years, and I think it's a long time coming because a lot of her opponents started to sniff out that she was going to be hunting their legs and start to just pressure pass her. Liz Clay has dramatically changed her style so that she is still utilizing leg locks, but she's really looking for position and a lot of arm attacks, a lot of back attacks. Once again, what she was doing a lot at brown belt, purple belt. And I think that her rounded out style has made it exactly very unorthodox because it's leg first, but there's a lot of follow-up attacks now.
Yeah, she's got great rubber guard. She's got really, really good close guard. She does have the leg attacks as well, and we almost never see Beatriz Mosquito get into a leg exchange ever. So it's going to be an interesting clash of styles. I like that match a lot. So that's it. August 7th coming up here. It's a Sunday night on FloGrappling. You can watch that. Gordon versus Felipe Pena and all those other matches. It's going to be a lot of fun. So the next event to talk about, IBJJF Black Belt GP, August 12th. It's just a couple of days. It's the Friday night after the Who's Number One. Man, this is an interesting one. This is a very interesting one. So, a historic moment because the IBJJF are hosting their first ever female Black Belt GP. And it's a sort of a combined lightweight. And we can bring up this graphic because you can take a look at some of the names that will be in action on this event. In the women's Black Belt female lightweight GP, Bianca Basilio, Natalie Ribeiro, Anna Rodriguez, Fionn Davis. And then in the men's medium heavyweight GP, you've got Gabriel Arges, Ronaldo Jr., Leandro Lowe, and Matias Luna. And then On Thursday, during the live show of Who's Number One, we announced that there will also be 2 super fights on the show, to include Felipe Andrew versus Herbert Santos in a heavyweight match, and then a middleweight bout between Andy Murasaki and Levi Jones-Leary. I think those 2 super fights definitely add a little bit more intrigue, because the 2 GPs by themselves are very exciting, and I'm really excited to see how these miniature tournaments go. But I love seeing some head-to-head super fights, and I think the matchmaking here has been really interesting.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, the Felipe Andrew versus Herbert Santos match got me really excited for this reason specifically. Both of these guys will punish any mistake.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
If you
They're both savage submission hunters.
Right. If you make a mistake against either one of them, they will find it and they will catch you for it. But neither of them are above taking risks.
True.
Right. So both of them are going to be, I'd expect, are going to be taking high risks, and whichever one messes up first is going to pay for it.
Yeah, Felipe Andrew has got a number of primary weapons. He's got that savage straight ankle lock. He's got the triangle armbar, and he's got the arm triangle choke. Herbert Santos has got devastating submissions, including a really savage knee bars, a really savage arm bars, chokes, you name it. He's got that epic judo as well, and I like the balance in the takedown skills as well, because Felipe Andrew's got some really slick wrestling. Yeah. Kind of unusual to see at that level, actually. It's something you don't see too many people do, but he's got some beautiful details on the switch, some excellent counter wrestling, and Herbert Santos has got ugly but extremely effective judo. So I think the takedown battle is also going to be very interesting to watch in this match. Murasaki versus Levi Jones-Leary is a really classic matchup between a pressure passer versus an open guard player, right?
Absolutely. And both of them have maybe unorthodox styles for their size, right?
Yeah.
Levi Jones-Leary is, sure, a berimbolo player, but not just a berimbolo player, right? He likes to attack those unorthodox arm bars, the Taraka Platas and the Barata Platas. And for somebody of Andy Murasaki's size, he has such a heavyweight style pressure passing.
Yeah.
Looks just like Berginho when he's passing. He takes a lot of influence from Gustavo Batista. So really kind of an unorthodox style for that size. The matchup's going to be, I think, really interesting. Some passing and some guard play we don't see at lightweight very often.
The focus this summer after the World Championships passed, it was very much no-gi. Of course, Who's Number One, the no time limit matches, the Who's Next finale, everything leading into ADCC. The buzz is no-gi this summer, but there are still a lot of people out there who appreciate a good old-fashioned gi jiu-jitsu match, and that includes us here at FloGrappling. We are big aficionados, fans of the gi, train in the gi regularly. It is a big part of our identities, and a big part of our love for jiu-jitsu is the gi. So it's going to be really interesting and really exciting to see a high-level, invitational, exclusive jiu-jitsu event like this featured on FloGrappling. Some of the best black belts in the world in the gi, doing their thing. Goes down August 12th. You can watch it here on FloGrappling. Very excited for that one. And I got to see there's a couple of comments here as well. Jordan Butler back, very active in our chat. Thank you very Jordan. But it says here that he knows which Felipe Andrew is going to pull up, but which Herbert will we see? And that is the eternal question. You never know with Herbert Santos, right? You never know which version you're going to get.
Yeah, and I think with somebody as, like I mentioned before, as willing to take a risk as Felipe, I hope we get the best possible Herbert Santos, the Herbert who's willing to take a risk, because that Herbert is so unpredictable in all of the best possible ways.
Yeah. And there's still this doubters, because Herbert's proved time and time again that, you can't trust him to show up in shape. You can't trust him to show up in form. You can expect the best, but he'll turn up and he'll disappoint just because he's a little unstable, inconsistent, let's say. But when he's on, man, he is on. So I think that he's going to come hard for this one. Let's see. So let's move on now. Final topic for today, of course, is ADCC 2022, and we've got some special news because this relates to ADCC 2022. But actually, we got an announcement. We have an announcement. If you read today's Grappling Bulletin article, which you should have done, I always recommend, first thing you do, Monday morning, open FloGrappling, go to the Grappling Bulletin article, catch up on all the biggest news stories from the weekend, and you'll get special announcements like this. We have just uploaded ADCC 2009, ADCC 2011, and ADCC 2015. You can now watch hundreds hundreds of ADCC matches on FloGrappling. Historic matches. Some of the best matches in ADCC history are now available to watch on FloGrappling. I'm talking the likes of Rafa Mendes, Marcelo Garcia, Andre Galvao's absolute gold medal run, Braulio Estima's epic submissions, and much, much more. Play this clip, please, if you would, producer Nico, because this is just a little glimpse of what to expect from our ADCC archives. That's Marcelo Garcia in 2009. Unleashing that shoulder crunch Sumigeshi butterfly hook. Yeah, you've got Saulo Ribeiro wearing a gi top in 2009 against Jeff Monson. You got Vinny Magalhães' ADCC debut, flying armbar against UFC champion Chris Weidman. You've got Braulio Estima's epic upside down reverse triangle victory against Andre Galvao in the 88 kilo final. That's the year Braulio won double gold and qualified to go on and fight in the super fight the following year. This is 2011. That's Andre Galvao in the 88 kilo final against Toquinho Huzumar Palhares in one of the most iconic ADCC matches of all time. And it's just so many matches like this. Corey, are you excited for ADCC matches?
I've been so excited to release this news. And there's so many of these athletes that we have never really had on FloGrappling.
Like Kron Gracie.
Like Kron Gracie, like Marcelo Garcia. And finally, there's an opportunity to watch these absolute legends. Cobrinha and Rafa Mendes here, right? In matches in jiu-jitsu that is so still...
It's surprisingly modern.
It's surprisingly modern. That's exactly it, right?
Here's Fabricio Verdum, former UFC heavyweight champion against Vinny Magalhães. Look at that. It was one of the most iconic moments, rolling off the mats in an active armbar. And, it's just so many outstanding moments. This is when Kira Gracie in the under 60 kilogram final unleashed the first ever choker plata that we saw, getting congratulated by her cousin Roger Gracie. And then 2015, Gio Martinez powerbombing Jeff Glover in the under 66 kilo division. Can you believe that? I mean, he basically knocked out or stunned Jeff Glover there. You have Orlando Sanchez's epic gold medal run in 2015, just throwing Jared Dopp across the mat. And then this, one of the most iconic submissions in an ADCC final, Davi Ramos hitting the epic flying armbar against Lucas Lepri in 2015. Man, we have got all this and more. Over 300 ADCC matches from 2009, 2011, and 2015 have all been uploaded to FloGrappling.com. And not only that, but you know what you can do? You can go to Flow Arena, hit the tab brackets at the top of our website. Type in 2009 ADCC and you can bring up the interactive brackets just like you use right now when you watch ADCC trials or any of those events. Our interactive brackets, you can pull that up and you can go through the historic brackets and click directly through onto the video links as well. It is something that we are so excited to be able to bring you. Honestly, as ADCC fans, we've had so much fun going through these archives, right?
Yeah, and we talk so much about how ADCC is the most iconic event in the sport of grappling, right? And a lot of us don't understand really why, right? A lot of grappling fans don't know why ADCC is so iconic, is so essential to what grappling has become. This is why. You can go through and you can see guys like Marcelo Garcia, like Rafa Mendes, like Kron Gracie, really people that have made legacies in the sport via ADCC, right? Andre Galvao, great example.
This is something interesting because we had Who's Next cast member and Who's Number One competitor. Rene Souza was hanging out with us at the office earlier. He's been in here in Austin for a few days, and so he swung by the office and he was just chatting and hanging out. And man, we were telling him, we're like, man, we've got these ADCC matches. They're going up today. You can watch Gio versus Glover. You can watch Marcelo versus Kron. And he's like, man, I've never seen those. And this is the case for a lot of modern jiu-jitsu and grappling fans. They haven't, up until now, been able to watch many of these matches. Sure, you might have been able to find one or two on YouTube, but we've got the entire divisions The entire 66, 77, 88, 99, over 99, women's under 60, over 60, and the absolute, and the epic super fights as well. Can you believe it? We're talking epic performances from the likes of Kron Gracie, Marcelo Garcia, Andre Galvao, many, many more. Honestly, it is going to be, it's going to keep you busy for a while. It's kept me busy for weeks. I've been going through these. There's so much good stuff in here, and yeah, really some epic submissions as well. I mean, Davi Hamos's flying armbar, we saw that. Marcelo Garcia, his guillotine choke against Kron Gracie in 2009 stands out. And there's that infamous moment as well of Gary Tonon ripping Dylan Dennis's leg apart in 2015. Man, there's so many amazing matches. And like I said, you can go and you can watch them all on FloGrappling.com. Exciting stuff. Well, now it's time to continue this ADCC Spotlight series that we've started last week. We did JT Torres last week, 77 kilogram two-time champion. Who you want to focus on this week, Corey?
We mentioned him at the top, but just for a minute, I want to talk about the 66 kilogram ADCC South American Trials winners. The first one, Diogo Reis.
Oh,
out of Melky Galvao's Fight Sports Manaus. We've been following Diogo for a little while, but I don't think a lot of people know exactly what makes the baby shark so such kind of an impressive talent. A lot of it has to do with he looks a lot like the athletes in his training room, right? Miki Galvao, Fabricio Andre. He's got that aggressive style and really.
We got something we can watch while we're talking about this?
Sure we do. Yeah, here's the highlight from when he won trials back in April.
Okay.
But yeah, just really submission-oriented, great positional pressure, and as we'll see in a minute, the strategy is really what does it for him. But
okay, so this is interesting because I was aware of Diogo as a black belt. I was aware of him as a very good competitor. You know, we'd heard the reports coming out of Manaus, and we'd seen him in action in Brazil and in Abu Dhabi and such. Well, I wasn't really sure what to expect of his no-gi game because I'd never really seen him in action when he turned up at ADCC trials in February of this year. And I mean, his gold medal run at the trials, qualifying to compete at ADCC, was very impressive. But what stood out to you about his jiu-jitsu?
You know what? It was a lot of it was his jiu-jitsu, but I think the majority of it was his wrestling, right? Which is something that is so important in ADCC, but can make or break a guy at 66, right? Because at 66 kilograms, there are a lot of people who will do enough wrestling to get by, but Diogo, as the rest of Melky Galvao's camp, has been adamantly working on the wrestling. Here, in fact, are two of the front runners there, Fabricio Andre and Diogo Reis. Diogo ended up catching his buddy here with a heel hook, something we don't see very often, especially coming out of Brazil.
Yeah, we saw a definite, a well-rounded game from Diogo Reis. We saw the leg locks. We saw, a top game. I think, are we going to see a clip of it as well with his wrestling? Because that was a crucial factor in his victory in the final against Diego Pato. And, that did not look like a friendly heel hook against a teammate. But here's the wrestling. What do you think about Diogo's wrestling against Pato?
Yeah, Diogo, see, this is kind of what caught me off. Is he looked like he was winning the wrestling exchanges, but he had the wherewithal to know when he could score, when he couldn't, and was using his wrestling in that way, trying to score, kind of backing off, giving space, and then dominating the shots again, really aggressively taking the shots, having the right head position, and following through to the back. He just looked sharp here, found the opportunity to get to Pato's back, scored when he needed to, when it was appropriate to. Really impressive mat control from a 20-year-old athlete.
Yeah, I think this is interesting, isn't it? Because you watch this strategy there, and it looked like somebody with a lot more experience of competing in ADCC rules than this young guy has. Because like you say, 20 years old, relatively fresh black belt as well. He's been competing for just over a year as a black belt, a year and change maybe. But to go into ADCC trials and to show such a smart game plan like that makes you think, well, a couple of things. Number one, it makes me think that him and his coach Melky Galvao and the rest of the guys there at Fight Sports Manaus, they've done their homework. They have prepared themselves thoroughly for the very, very specific rule set that you will encounter in ADCC. And not only have they studied it, they've trained strategies. They've developed strategies specific to that rule set that I think that they're going to come in September. And they're going to be maybe a little better prepared than a lot of other people would expect them to be as rookies.
Right, which for me, I think, I really hope we see this match. I know it's going to be almost impossible to predict any match at 66, but that for me makes the potential matchup between Diogo Reis and Kolabate particularly interesting because of kind of a similar pattern, right? Really well prepared for the particular rule set. Obviously dangerous from every position, any rule set, but studied and trained for this rule set. And it's going to be a real kind of battle of two aggressive athletes who know the game inside and out.
I mean, that is one match that we could look forward to.
There are 15.
But that 16, that
right.
66 kilo division, the 16 people in that division is just, man, there isn't a bad match. You could take any one of those competitors or any two of those competitors, put them together, and I think you're guaranteed a good match in that 66 kilos. Who would you like to see apart from Kolabate you just mentioned? Dream matchups right now. First round, final, doesn't matter. Who would you like to see Diogo Reis go up against at 66 kilos?
Kennedy Maciel stands out for sure.
Okay.
Similar, 66 is so loaded, right?
It is. I put you on the spot.
You did.
I did. Okay, let's pull up the list for 66. I'm thinking a match with European Trials winner Ash Williams would be interesting. I think that would be an exciting one because Ash is the kind of guy who's been looking for that breakout moment as well. And Ash Williams is like one of those guys. He's, for me, pound for pound, one of the best guys out of not just the UK, but Europe in general. And he's a fantastic no-gi grappler with a ton of experience. ADCC Trials winner. And it's unlikely that they'll see them sort of, matched up, obviously, because Trials winners usually get an invitee first round. But stylistically, I like that match.
Yeah.
Choose another one.
I've got a lock pick here, Josh Cisneros.
Oh, yeah, that's great. 'Cause Josh Cisneros doesn't know how to have a bad match,
exactly right. And I think, especially after who's number one against Estevan, I think the general public will realize that neither does Diogo Reis know how to have a bad match.
I've got another one for you. Diogo Reis versus Gary Tonon.
Like that.
Because Gary's now dropped to 66. Let's not forget that. I still kind of catch myself off guard a little bit. I'm looking at the list. I'm like, oh, Gary Tonon 66. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Well, and think about the dramatic size difference in that match too, right? Because Gary, I think, gets as high as 170, and Diogo doesn't get much higher than 145.
True. Yeah, quite the opposite. I think he's going to be bulking up for the division because he usually competes somewhere around 135 a lot of the time. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Tons of good matches there in the under 66 kilos. Very excited for what Diogo Reis is going to bring. That's our ADCC Spotlight for this week's episode of the Grappling Bulletin. And that's pretty much it from today's show. Just a few quick comments from the fans here. We've got some really good conversation going on here. Some kind of people are playing matchmakers, historic matchmakers here. They'd love to see Margarita in his prime versus Gordon Ryan. We also had comments about Gordon versus Roger. I mean, to be honest, Gordon is the modern era Roger Gracie. If anybody who's got memories long enough, or some people who were around in jiu-jitsu back then, when Roger Gracie was active, he was doing exactly what Gordon's doing now, just in a very different way, personality-wise. But jiu-jitsu-wise, it was too easy for him. He rarely had a competitive match. It was very rare that you see Roger out of position. Very rare you would see him tested. If somebody scored a reversal on him, people were like, "Oh my God, did you see what happened to Roger? He actually lost position for a minute." So it's kind of how things are with Gordon Ryan at the moment. But here's another good comment here from Israel Ramos. If you don't like Ryan, you can't deny he's the best there has always been at no-gi. That's a bold statement. There are many greats who have competed in no-gi grappling over the last 20-25 years, especially in ADCC. You've got multiple time champions like Marcelo Garcia, like Roger Gracie, but you won't hear me argue that Gordon is one of the best of all times, and he's got an opportunity to just further cement that position because his career he's still only 27 years old.
Yeah, and I think within this calendar year, he can make that decision for himself, right? I think a couple more big wins, a win over Felipe Pena, a win over Andre Galvao, another success at the over 99 kilogram division. That could just about do it for him as far as the greatest of all time in no-gi.
I mean, if he does go out there this year and if he does win the super fight against Andre and wins gold in the over 99 kilogram division, he would become the first ever 3-time champion in 3 different divisions, winning 88, 99 and over 99.
Right.
staggering.
Think about that. If he does what he intends to at ADCC in September, he'll have golds at the 88, 99, over 99, absolute and the super fight.
Wow. Yeah, that raises the bar. That maybe puts it at unattainable levels. We might have to wait a couple of generations to see something like that come around again. Yeah, we're also seeing a nice comment here from David Trotter just saying that the knowledge of fans in this live chat is unparalleled. I 100% agree. To all hundreds of people watching right now live on our YouTube, I got to say I 100% agree that the conversation has been fantastic. I'm really happy to have all you guys join us for this show. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you back here next Monday as we get closer to the upcoming Who's Number One. Many more events on the calendar. Go to FloGrappling.com, hit the schedule tab at the top of the page. You can see we've got grappling just every single weekend. You can watch gi, no gi, you name it, much more. That's pretty much it from today's show. See you guys next time.